Hey guys, welcome back to We Met at Acme. I'm so excited to be here with podcaster, activist, creator Mal Glowenke.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Oh wait, I forgot to tell you to kind of kiss
maybe
this
a little
mic.
closer. Okay.
But it's okay. We're gonna keep that in there because
it's like I've never done this before.
So before we get into anything, Mal, what is your favorite romantic gesture? And this is more for someone to do to you than for you to do them, you know?
Oh, this is interesting. I'm an acts of service girl.
Mhm.
I like
Me too.
if you go for a coffee in the morning, give me a pastry. Like
Mhm.
just little things that tell me that you're thinking about me. They
Mhm.
don't have to be like big.
But that's more like a gift, don't you think?
Do you think? Yeah, I guess maybe it is gifts,
Like,
but
to
I don't like
me-
to say that it's gifts.
Yeah. To me, acts of service is like I washed the rug for you or whatever. I don't even
Okay,
know if
yeah,
you can.
maybe I
I don't
guess.
even know if you can wash a rug, but I feel like I also would appreciate, a croissant in the morning. So I think, yeah, I get that. When's your birthday?
May 27th, I'm a Gemini.
I was gonna say I was getting like Taurus-y, but like it's because you're close to Taurus.
My girlfriend's a Taurus.
Oh, that's so funny. Gemini Taurus couples are so popular.
It's just so interesting because she's like so sleepy, like
Yeah.
laid back, grounded, chill, and I'm like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Morning person, I'm up.
But that's opposites attract.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you two meet?
We have kind of an interesting story. So Matilda has a background in film and TV, and she was working on a lesbian reality TV show. She had been developing it for a few years, and a lot of the girls on the show had coupled up. So they needed like a new single, kind of crazier person to come in and
Mhm.
shake things up. So they were on TikTok looking for people, and they found me. So our first kind of meeting was a casting interview and then they casted me on the show and we started dating and we had to have this whole like sex investigation with NBC because the show was, going to be picked
Wait,
up.
what do you mean a sex investigation?
Well, because they were like, are you promising her a part for sex?
Oh my God.
So we had to like disclose our relationship to them because the show was
Right.
pretty
Well,
close to
weren't they
getting picked up.
also annoyed because like aren't you coming on as a single person and now of course by the time you're, filming, the opposite has happened?
Yeah, so we shot this whole pilot, and in the pilot, I was having to, like, act as if we weren't fully dating, and it was actually
So
funny
funny.
because I was pretty lesbians, we move quick, I was pretty much living with her.
Yeah.
So all my stuff, my dogs were at the house, and we were shooting at her house, and so before the whole production crew would come over, I would have to leave.
Pretend leave. Come
Yeah,
back.
put my dogs in the garage, leave, and pretend as if I wasn't fully living there and,
Oh,
like,
that
show
is
up with a
so
bag.
funny. So what ended up happening with the show?
So, everything started happening with the strike and the recession.
Yeah.
And so they basically greenlit the show and then pulled it. And which is just so frustrating because it's like the queer shows, I feel like, are always the first ones. You're like,
Right.
nope, you're not gonna get that. So ended up not happening. And that's actually why the podcast came about, because we were like, well, we met working together. This is what we're comfortable with. This is what we enjoy. And so what else can we do? And so we decided, like, let's make a video podcast to kind of highlight the steps in the coming out process. And so we batch filmed 8 episodes and we released them and they did really well. And we were like, all right, I guess we got to keep doing this. So
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's
And
been great.
what was your story like? I mean, I've, seen a few videos, but I'm going to pretend to know nothing.
Yeah.
Walk us through.
Yeah, I was born in Chicago, so I grew up with like a pretty progressive family, but we moved when I was really young to Texas, which was like quite the culture shock. It's very typical, what church do you go to was the first question that I was being asked.
Right.
And I think just at a really young age, I realized like, oh, okay, this is the vibe here in Texas. And I just started conforming and just was deeply shut off to who I really was in a lot of different ways, not just my queerness. I went down a career path that wasn't right for me and, dated a lot of just men who do not align with my values or who I am. And, I always say, like, I think when you're shut off to one part of yourself, you're shut off to a lot of parts of yourself. But at some point, your body says enough is enough. You can only play the game for so long until you're kind of stopped in your tracks. And around 25, I just had like a like a mental breakdown, I guess. I don't know what else to call it. I was at the Planet Hollywood in Vegas and I had just had like this insane night. It was like my 25th birthday and I woke up and just was like, something is not right. Like I'm not happy. I have all these things that I should have. I have the job, I have the friends, but something isn't jiving. And I packed up my bags and moved to LA like very shortly after, not just on a gut kind of
Mm-hmm.
feeling. And when I got to LA was when I switched my apps and realized like, okay, well, maybe that was it.
Totally. But it's like, how did you not, or maybe you did, and you just didn't mention that, but like, were there feelings that you were repressing, like leading up to this point? I mean, like, what about when, like, I definitely experimented when I was, much younger with all of the
Yeah.
things, as, we do. Were there thoughts back then, even of just like, what do I like? It's not really men, or,
Yeah. I find this to be a common story, like, especially on my podcast, having these conversations over and over again. I knew from a really young age, like before we ever moved to Texas at like 5 years old, it was like I wanted to play house with the girls and I wanted to kiss the girls. And I feel like if we would have stayed there, it would have been a very different path for me and I would
right.
have come out and been very comfortable. Um, but I think when you again, like when you shut yourself off to that and you're so disconnected to yourself and who you are, it's I I always knew, but it was like this thing that I didn't allow myself to explore. I There are stories. I mean, I was on Craigslist when I was like 15 on Women Seeking Women, looking for like girls to explore that side
No.
of me with. Yeah,
In
100%
while you're in
while
Texas.
I was in Texas.
And were there any high school romances like down on the down low?
No, because it was like it was this thing that I knew, but it had to be so buried and so secret that I could
Yeah.
only explore it in those types of ways,
Right.
like on
Well,
Craigslist. In high school, I was
what
dating guys.
happened with the Craigslist
I
ad?
would meet up with girls,
Yeah.
like girls my age, and
Right. Well, how old are you now?
I'm 31.
Okay.
Yeah, so but this was like at 15, 16
Right.
years old. It's
Yeah.
like looking back, I'm like, that was so dangerous. But when you're so deeply closeted but desperate to kind of like that something's pulling you in that direction, you kind of do whatever it takes.
Right. Right. What kind of girls were they
I
that you
mean,
would meet up with, like that were also using Craigslist?
I only ever met up with a few,
Mm-hmm.
but they were very much like me, like just closeted, like scared, exploring, trying to figure themselves out. And I had a few experiences there. And then as I got older, I would fully go and hook up with women. And it was just this thing that it never clicked for me that I was a lesbian. I think a lot of it was language. There wasn't a lot of representation for like femme presenting lesbians, girls
Right.
that looked
Right.
like me,
Mm-hmm.
And so I just don't think I ever put the two together in my head. And it's almost like, oh, that's just that thing that I do. And that's just that part of me. But like, no one will ever know. It's just my thing. And then I'm fully in relationships with men.
Right.
It's very weird.
No, it's fascinating. Were you able to go all the way with a man?
Yeah. I was in like full blown relationships with men. I was in a pretty serious relationship when I was around 21 and then another one around like 23. And yeah, I lived with these guys. I had like bank accounts with some guys.
Did
Like
you feel love for them? Like, was that part genuine? Not to say that you were like a faker, but you know what I'm saying? Like, when you look back, or was it more just like, this is what I know and what I need to be doing?
Yeah, it's really hard. I think I still question that myself. I mean, I think there was love there. I think
Mm-hmm.
I cared for these people. And at the time, what I understood of love, that's what I thought it was.
Right.
So it's hard to say yes or no. I think it's like really complex. But what I feel now with my partner is like you can't even compare the two.
Right, of course.
I think I was just really trying to do what was expected of me in that culture and, get the guy, settle down,
Right.
have the job, get married before 25, have the babies. Like that was the life I was moving toward.
with the breakups with these guys, was it always just you being like, I fell out of love or whatever it is, as opposed to them? Because, like, I know this sounds so silly and ridiculous, but I'm sure that there are some people out there that just for like just for this part of it are like, wow, I wish I was a lesbian so that I didn't care about men and I could just
Mm,
like dispose of them. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so when you're in a relationship with a man, but you know something they don't know, it's like, you know,
It I was deeply devastated by those breakups, and looking back, I think now I can realize it was because it was this thing that I was supposed to be achieving or doing
right.
that I could never get there. They all broke
Mhm.
up with me. It was never
I'm
me
so
breaking up with them.
surprised. What was
Yeah.
the reason?
I mean, I also think I kind of chased not the greatest men, probably like
Right, right, right.
an exit plan, I guess. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think going into these relationships, I always knew they weren't the right ones. Um but yeah, they were always the ones that had to end it. And I think finally after that last breakup with a guy, which was a pretty crazy breakup, I found out, about a kid that he had that
Oh
I wasn't
god.
aware of. It was like a pretty like deeply involved breakup, and it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, okay, hold on. Like I need to take some time alone. I need to parse through some shit here. And that was when I finally decided to move to LA, was after that breakup. But I think when you're just chasing something and you think you should be doing something and it keeps not happening and falling apart, that's devastating, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, I don't know. It didn't there wasn't a lack of pain. Like there was
Mhm.
still pain. I think it was just a different kind of pain.
Yeah, that makes
That
sense.
makes sense.
And your parents, you said, were progressive. Did that change when they moved to Texas? Like, whether it was, subconscious or not? And did it make you more nervous to, like, be open with them?
This is what is so crazy is my parents were never the worry. Yeah,
Mhm.
I like I have the greatest parents in the world, even though sometimes maybe they don't understand it all. They are like so open to learning and moving with the times and shifting. And so that was never the worry. And that's what's so crazy is you can be at home with the most progressive, loving family and you're still raised by the culture. When your friends are going to church and when your friends are saying gay people go to hell, and when you're hearing this constantly, it does not matter what you're being told at home,
Yeah.
because you're out in the world unprotected by your parents, having to live with these people that believe these things. And that's what's shaping what you do and who you are. And so that's why I say, I really think if we would have stayed in Illinois and Chicago, I probably would have, my life would be so different. I would have come out so much earlier. I would have had a very different view of my sexuality in the world, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, so interesting. So we
Yeah.
moved to LA.
hmm
You're in LA, and at this point, you've had this conversation with your parents.
Yeah, I was a COVID coming out. So it was kind of a secret for a while. I was on the apps. I found one specific girl who I went on one date. I had my gay panic moment, like, oh well, fuck, okay, this is a thing. I ghosted her for like 6 months because I was like, I'm not ready to deal with that.
Yeah.
I still tried to date guys. It's shocking. I still was like kind of, on the men and women in the apps. And she was just in my DMs constantly, like, let me take you out again. Let me take you out again. And finally I let her. And that was kind of when we were hitting that COVID time. So we were a
Mhm.
full blown COVID relationship, which COVID was horrible, but I feel like the world stopped and I had a year to kind of figure out my sexuality and like
Right.
figure out a lot of things with this woman. And when you come out later in life like I did, there's a lot of logistical things, like I haven't really had sex like that with a woman, and
Right.
I don't have that confidence. And you know there's a lot of dynamic shifts in relationships with women. You're so used to things being so hetero, and like that relationship was still pretty hetero, but being with a woman is just, it's so different. And
Wait,
so
well,
there's
how is that relationship hetero? Just because you were so, like, new and she was more of, like the masculine.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
I think that's like a comfort zone. I think that happens. I don't know, for like little baby gays that
Yeah.
come out. It's like you kind of find someone who's pretty in line with what you're used to. And so that
Mhm.
relationship was very much that. I needed someone who was just going to take control, tell me how things work, tell me what we're doing here, and
Right.
I can just kind of like ease into things. And
Mhm.
so that's what I did for that whole year, and it gave me that chance to kind of open up to friends back home and my family. And yeah, by the end of COVID, I was out, and then I got out of that relationship,
Yeah.
and I was like ready to, you
Was there
know.
ever a part of you while you were still dating guys and started dating this woman or talking to women on dating apps that thought, maybe I'm bi?
I think I had that for about 5 minutes.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
think I think, like, a lot of women or, people go through a longer phase of that. I kinda work in extremes, that's just the way I am. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, this is the way I'm going now." It just felt like so many things
Mhm.
clicked. When
Yeah.
when I went on that date, I was like, "Oh god, okay, like,
It
this
was like
is."
your like movie moment. After that, and just like, now knowing yourself, knowing you're a lesbian and like being confident about it, not having any doubts, I'm curious, how do you feel about women who say they're bi or, that kind of thing? Do you like, or the lesbian community in general, right?
Mhm.
Is a bi woman like scary to someone who's a lesbian? Do you know what I'm saying in terms of dating?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, unfortunately, a thing. Um and we have to believe that bi people exist. I mean, I don't know what
Right.
else there is to say,
Right.
besides that. I mean, also, it's, like, not our place to speculate on someone's
Totally.
sexuality, and,
Mhm.
everybody is where they are in their own journey,
Right.
and, um, I don't know, I personally would not have a problem dating a bi person.
Yeah.
That's not really a thing for me. I do think, I don't know, I tend to date more masculine lesbians, which I don't know maybe I shouldn't say that, but a lot of
No,
them
I think that's
tend to
totally fair
not be
game.
like
Yeah.
the most bisexual. So it's
Mhm.
not really in my, like, it was never in my dating sphere.
Right.
But unfortunately I do think that's a thing in the lesbian
Mhm.
community. And
What have you ever talked about, like, Chrishell, for example, or, what's her Sophia Bush and, like, their kind of transitions on your podcast? I'm curious what your thoughts are, if you have any thoughts.
no, I honestly, I don't know them, their
Mhm.
stories well
Right, right,
enough,
right.
um, to, like, speculate or
Yeah.
say anything.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know, just from, like, pop culture or whatever, they were both in relationships or married to men and now are, like, so happily married or dating women, and I just wonder, like, obviously, you're not in their head, you can't tell me, but if they had the same exact kind of story that you did where it just hit them all at once, and I think that that's so interesting, and I'm so grateful that you share this because, like, not that I represent the entire hetero community, but it's like we just don't know enough,
Mhm.
and I just feel like there's not, and you were talking about TV. What lesbian things are on TV except for the L word years and years and years ago? There's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
We're so uneducated about it and like dumb.
Yeah, I do think there is a lack of representation, and I think this is why this happens. You know, the more masculine or, mask presenting lesbians have had representation in the media.
Right, but not femme
Right.
presenting lesbians.
I
And
do think
that's
there's a hole.
it's so interesting because, like, I wonder if there is more discrimination against femme presenting or mask presenting. And the reason I ask is because I feel like I can see, like, that worst kind of hetero man being like, "No, no, no, like, you're not a lesbian. Like, you look like my ex-girlfriend," or like, "You're too pretty," or, "You're this or you're that." Like, have you experienced that?
Yeah. It's very different. I think we all have our own struggles, and it's you can't really compare them. They're so different.
Mhm.
And I've never had the lived experience of just being outed by my presentation, you
Right,
know? So
right.
that is like a very different struggle that I want to acknowledge. But there is a unique challenge to being a femme lesbian. And I do think a lot of it does come in that form of, oh, what? There's no way you're a lesbian. And like
Totally.
not being believed or,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. And I do think it is a lack of language and lack of education and lack of representation. And I think that's what Matilda's trying to do with her show. It's
Right.
like put these people on TV. People need to see themselves and have language around who they are.
Right.
And I think that's why lesbian TikTok is so great and why
Huge.
we've had this surge of like femme lesbians coming out because we're seeing each other on TikTok now and being like, oh, bitch, what? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. I love that. Okay. These were some questions that came in for you. You talked about this on your podcast, this term lesbian bed death.
oh,
And if you can come back from it, what
when
does
did we
this
talk
mean?
about this? This is just like a thing that is
Wait, why is it so funny?
stigma.
Like, what does it mean?
So it just means that like lesbian couples eventually stop having sex.
Okay.
And that's just like a stigma and
Mhm.
a thing that can happen.
Because a lot of people think that women just like have less of a sex drive than men.
Yeah, or just like we're stimulated in different ways. I think with men it's like so visual and
Right.
so just like you have a natural initiator and it's just like I don't want to say easier, but just I don't know, it just happens that way where
No,
like, man
yeah.
is visually turned on.
Totally.
And I think women, it takes a little bit more. Like,
Yeah.
we need to be emotionally stimulated and like take me on a date and get me the coffee, and
Mhm.
all of that. And so I think it's just there's more effort, I think, that goes into like making sure those things happen and don't fall
Mhm.
away. I also think like you become best friends with your partner. Your life becomes
Right.
there's something so unique to being a lesbian. It's like the community is so enmeshed. Your relationship can become very enmeshed. Like in the best way. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. But also, there's an effort that has to be put forward to make sure that like it still stays romantic and
Right, of
we're
course.
still fucking.
Yeah, no, totally. I actually wonder, what is it like with exes in your community? Like, because for example, my best friend who's gay, his group of friends, like he's, includes some of his exes.
Yeah.
And it's very normal. And like he's basically married. He's engaged to our other friend who we're obsessed with them. And they always hang out with their exes, but it's not in any way like romantic. They're just in the crew now and it just didn't work with them. And for me, I would not be okay if my ex was in the crew. Like
Yeah.
this would be so deeply not okay.
Yeah.
So how is it for you guys with
I
that?
mean, that's just part of the culture.
Yeah.
Matilda's exes are around. They're just there. And I love them. And we're friends. And I don't know. It's just something that you can't really explain. It's such a small circle. Like,
right.
it's just a tight-knit community.
But I feel like because of that, and you tell me, the respect is higher, right? Like with my ex, if he were in the crew, like he'd probably try to hook up with me. He doesn't care, I don't feel like it's the same in gay communities.
Yeah, I do think it is a little bit different. And I think you just know that like they're going to be around and this is part of
Right.
the culture. And that's not to say sometimes it is tough. There will be breakups that kind of split. It's a breakup for everybody because like I
Right.
said, your girlfriend's friends are your friends. Everybody's together. It's like I'm not going to go hang out with my girlfriend or my friend because my girlfriend is friends with her girlfriend. So we're
Yeah.
all going to hang out together. So it just
Mhm.
becomes so like we're just all together all the time and everybody becomes close with everybody. And so then when there's a breakup, it's like, oh fuck, like this is horrible for it's
Yeah,
gut-wrenching for everyone,
uh-huh.
So it really does it does become this like group effort and this thing. But I think that's even more so why we want to all keep everybody in the groups,
Right,
because
right.
we don't want to lose our friends. So it's just
Mhm.
it can get hard and messy
Yeah.
and it takes a lot of emotional maturity.
Totally. What do you think of people who say they're attracted to like an energy? Do you know what I mean? Like someone who won't necessarily define themselves as heterosexual or gay or queer, whatever, but they say, I'm attracted to someone's energy. Have you
Yeah.
ever heard that?
Yeah, and I
Mm-hmm.
totally believe that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's like people are people and you're
Yeah.
attracted to what you're attracted to. And it's hard because there's so many layers of when you come out. And like someone like me, I've dated men for so long. And then I come out and now there's like kind of layers of trauma there, not to get heavy, but it's
No,
like,
of course.
I've slept with men for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Was I doing that because I wanted to, or was I doing that because I felt like I had to? And
Right.
so there's like a lot of work that you kind of have to do to separate that. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that's hard. And I don't know. I have to keep myself in check a lot and question, like, okay, where am I at? Like, do I still, even though I'm with a partner and, but it's still important to kind of ask yourself these questions. Like, could I ever see myself with a guy? Like, is that attraction there? And I don't know. I do think it's like a constant conversation. It's
Right.
evolving. And I think it's important to check in with yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I can definitely see how that happens. I think I've landed here, but who's to say, in 20 years? I don't know.
Right.
But I believe it. I believe it. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually think that's probably the most enlightened
Totally.
like stance. Like that's probably the most beautiful place to get to and be is someone
Mm-hmm.
who just is like, I just love people and I
Right.
just
Like I
want to be
just
with a
love
good.
their energy.
Yeah.
Are
So
you a housewives girly?
yeah.
What is your take on Kyle Richards? Like, where do you think, you know, do you believe the rumors? Do you think that it's a friendship?
I mean, if she's gay, I am so fucking happy for her that she is
Mm-hmm.
like finally getting to live her truth
Mm-hmm.
and I can imagine that it's on that kind of scale. It's very hard to, navigate and she has a family that's been in the public eye for forever and
Right.
she has a lot of people to think about, but even like inching toward that and taking that step for herself is so fucking huge and so fucking cool. And for like, just think about that kind of representation.
Yeah.
All these, like, my mom watches The Housewives,
No, oh my
like
God.
all
A
these
lesbian
middle-aged women
housewife who's actually out would be
who came
epic.
out in real time on the show.
Right.
That's like groundbreaking in a lot of
Totally.
ways for like all these middle-aged women who are watching that
Yes.
show. It's like, that's really
Oh
fun.
my God. You got to be her PR because that was genius. Honestly. That was so good. Okay, this is from a woman who is newly interested in women, or not newly, but coming to, I don't know why I keep saying coming to Jesus. I can't like think of a better term
I love
for it.
that.
Or she's coming away from Jesus, depending on how you look at it. How do you talk to women on a dating app?
Oh my gosh.
This question came up a bunch.
I know. We get it on ours too. It's just like, this is what I always tell baby gays is it's
Baby
awkward.
gays.
It's so messy. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to stub your toe. You're going to fall down. It's like, you just have to get through those moments. And just, this is so cliche, but like, you just have to be yourself and you'll get there. But it's so hard being new to being gay. It's like being in high school again, dating for the first time or being in middle school dating for the first time. It's nerve-wracking and you're new. It's being the new kid at school. That's all it is. And
is there ever a baby gay who just like comes in hot and like is so good at it, has the best game, like slays?
I mean, I'm sure. I don't know. I think we all have our. I'm sure there are, but depending on like what age you are when you come out, it just can be.
Yeah.
I think it's nerve-wracking regardless, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this one's a little more intense, and like if you don't want to get into it, we don't have to. But what is your stance on like future family potential stuff? And was that a conversation that you had with your parents when you came out? Like, let's say that you want kids, not putting words in your mouth. You were like, no, we're still, I still want to give you grandkids one day. Or were you like, I this is who I am, and I might not have this typical, family that you envision for me,
Yeah. I'm so lucky that my parents have never put that pressure on me. They're like, I have very young parents. They're 50, like 56 and 57.
What?
Yeah, they're really young. And I'm the
That's
oldest. I know. It's
amazing.
kind of crazy. So my dad's like, I'm young. I'm not ready to be a grandma,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so that's really just like never been a pressure that's been in my head. And they've always just wanted us to live like the happiest life that we can.
Mhm.
Um, and also when I came out, there was like my parents get it. They know about IVF. Like they're with it enough, to
Right.
know that that wasn't even a question in their
Mhm.
head. So luckily I didn't have to deal with that. And I realized that I am very blessed and lucky that I didn't have to. But I do want kids, and so does my partner. And that's usually a conversation that you have pretty early on in the lesbian dating world.
Yeah.
And we actually have an interesting story. Our best friend will be our donor.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, he's like this incredible French gay man who designed our house. He's just like the best guy. And he's like, please, like, let's do this.
That's
Yeah, so
amazing.
we do have a
Does
donor.
he have kids of his own?
No, he
Great.
doesn't. He's single. He's out in the dating
Yeah,
world. And
yeah.
yeah, so we're really lucky to also kind
Amazing.
of not have to go through that process.
Mhm.
And yeah, we're gonna start the egg retrieval process this year.
That's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
so happy for
Thanks.
you.
Yeah, we're excited.
Do you feel like you want to have a wedding? Like, where do you stand on that stuff?
It's so interesting because when you're gay, I think you're like fuck everything. So you're
Right.
changing all the rules. So
Uh-huh.
it makes you think about weddings in a different way too.
Mhm.
We do want a wedding. Matilda and I love to host. We love to throw parties. We love to plan events. That's like really where we thrive together, is when we're doing things like that. So a wedding is like, of course, we want to make it big and gay and fun. But I don't know that it'll be any sort of traditional. Like
Right.
I think Julian, our donor, will be our flower girl. Like I
Yeah,
think it'll be
yeah.
very like fun and campy um and just like a big party. But yeah, definitely a wedding.
That's amazing. And have you and Matilde talked about, what or actually have you had any lesbians with kids on your podcast and talked about kind of like the traditional mom role? Because like being a mom, like I'm a new mom, and the mental load is insane for
Yeah.
mothers. And even if your partner is helpful, like it all kind of falls on the mom.
Mhm.
And I wonder if it actually could be evened out if it were two women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and what's pretty incredible is Matilda's the first girl I've ever dated that was willing to carry. This is like something for femme lesbians, that a lot of the time the femme is just expected to carry all the kids.
Mm.
And Matilda's very willing to carry, so which is great. And so hopefully maybe we'll split the load.
Literally and physically. That's amazing.
Split the load. Julian's gonna love that.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That's really so cool. I love it.
Thanks.
I really had so much fun talking about that. Do you ever get bored of talking about just, be like, I feel like there's so much more to you than your sexual orientation, obviously, like, when you're going on other podcasts, are you like, oh, we're talking about this shit again? I just want to like talk about the, Blink Twice movie or whatever it is. Like,
No, honestly, I feel so passionate about what I do and what we're doing with our podcast and the representation that we're providing, that I'm like, I'm an open book. I'll talk about it all day. And I think that's why it works, is because I genuinely love these conversations, and I'm fascinated by kind of the process and like, why do femme lesbians come out later in life, and
Right.
why, what is the struggles with a femme or a mask lesbian? I'm so fascinated by all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really cool that I get to work with my friends, and these are people who I would talk to anyways, and we come and drink wine on my couch and have these like really deep introspective conversations. And I mean, I love it. I love it. Do I think I could we just branched out into this political series.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is,
Tell us a little bit about that.
helped that. Yeah, we teamed up with LPAC, which is a political action committee that only endorses lesbian and non-binary candidates. And I got to sit down with 6 incredible candidates that are running for office this year and talk to them kind of about the issues that are on the ballot that affect the lesbian, well, LGBTQ plus community. And I love that work. It's something that I never would have seen myself doing. The reason why I wanted to do this was because when I lived in Texas, I very much, unfortunately, was the person that was like, politics doesn't affect me. I don't need to think about it. And luckily, I had my little sister who checked me on my privilege and stayed in my ear and made sure I understood that, we need to care about issues that affect us, issues that affect people around us, and we need to have these conversations. And she showed me a lot of podcasts that kind of opened the doors to my learning and understanding, and that changed my life. In a lot of ways, that's what made it hard to stay in Texas, was because I started to understand what was going on there and the viewpoints there and how it just felt so, misaligned.
Right.
And so when the opportunity presented itself, it just felt so perfect because it was a way to kind of pay that forward and give that to someone else and hopefully give that to our audience. And so it was daunting. It's very different speaking with Senator Tammy Baldwin,
Yeah.
than what I do on my couch
Totally.
in my home. But it was great. It gave me a chance to step outside of that comfort zone and learn a lot. The research for those episodes I really enjoyed, and it made me want to do more of that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll branch out and get to do more things like this. But I'll talk about being gay till the day I go.
And is there a famous lesbian that you look up to, or
I'm a big
idolize?
Glennon Doyle.
Yeah.
I really,
What a legend.
yeah, I really love what she does. I think the conversations that she has are so important. Her book was the first book I read when I started coming out. So it was, kind of really helped me on my journey. And so it's kind of my North Star lesbian.
I love that. Okay, we're going to answer some fun rapid fire poll questions. We do this on our Instagram. So if you're ever bored doing whatever, feel free to check them out.
Okay, love it.
Okay. Is it an ick if they text, "Hey!" if you don't respond for 2 hours?
If it's the right person, no.
Okay. Is it rude if you post a picture of you and your significant other at a wedding with a congrats to the bride or groom, but no picture of them? Like it's of you.
That's kind of iconic. I would never, I feel like that's something I would do and I would never even think about it. Oops.
Okay, going back to the days of having a roommate, if your roommate was getting surgery and going to be living at home with their parents for a month, are they still expected to pay the utility fees, or is it right to not want to pay?
Girl, LA's expensive.
Yeah.
We had this agreement, you got to pay.
Would you rather have really nice feet or really nice hands?
Hands all day.
Everyone said that, but why?
You know
'Cause
what?
you see
I
them
actually
more?
read this somewhere. I don't know where. Somebody help me. But it's that one of the first things that people look at is your hands.
Really? I've never looked at your hands until this exact moment.
Okay, maybe it's not true.
Did you look at mine? No, be honest. Be honest. Did you look
I don't
at mine?
remember. I don't know.
Okay, interesting. That makes me insecure about like manicures. You know what I mean? Because I don't care. Like I got one recently, but I usually don't. But I usually am not. Because now I'm like, oh, people are noticing manicures. If you're unsure about someone, how many dates would you try before ending it? 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5?
1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like very decisive.
No, I agree. How many times did you? Well, this doesn't apply to you, but I guess we could still. How many times did you and your significant other's family meet and spend time with each other, like the two families, before you got engaged?
Oh, you know what? Matilda's family, she's from Portugal.
Okay.
So our families will never meet until
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But have they met on FaceTime?
No, she has like older, older family. Mine's very young. It's gonna be interesting.
Okay, we're
just
here
gonna
for
throw
it.
them all in there on the wedding
We're
day.
here. Your significant other of 6 months is kinder and has great values and will be an amazing partner and dad, whatever, than anyone you've dated before, but you sometimes miss the spark and sizzle of relationships that weren't as healthy. Is this normal?
It's probably normal, but that's like work that you need to do inside of you.
Is it an ick if they play video games?
Yeah.
I agree. You fall asleep while texting back and forth with someone you just met. Is it your responsibility to text them back in the morning, or should you wait for them to reach out?
If you are thinking about this, it's not the right person. It shouldn't be that hard.
Mm. I know what you mean, but I think you should just text them like, "Hey, I fell asleep." What?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, if you're like
Right.
contemplating, like, oh my god, should I
Yeah,
text this
yeah.
person? Like,
Then
I'm
no.
double texting, triple texting, quadruple texting.
Right.
If you don't like me,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
isn't it.
If you're in a long-term relationship, are you arguing with your partner more about political topics leading up to the election, even if political views mostly align?
This is interesting. Arguing is a harsh word.
Debating.
Debate, I think it's important. You should
No,
be
I
having these
agree.
conversations.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, Matilda and I talk about this a lot, and every time we have one of those kinds of really deep conversations, it opens my eyes
Yeah.
to something. So I absolutely think that you should. And also, if you're going to raise kids with this person, like,
Right.
figure this
Yeah,
the fuck out.
you gotta be on the same page.
Yeah.
Is it an ick if someone calls their parent mom versus my mom when talking to someone other than their siblings? Like, mom's coming to town. Like, if I said that to you about my mom.
This is so funny. Kind of weirdly.
It's
Why is that icky?
because why would someone do that? I don't know anyone who's ever done that, but apparently it's a thing.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I think that is kind of.
It's so weird and so icky. You give your number to someone at the bar, and every time you text them, they respond within 2 to 4 minutes, sometimes seconds every time. Is this a red flag or a green flag?
That's a green flag, I
Yeah.
think. Is that a
No, I
red
agree.
flag?
No, I'm into it. Like, respond to me
Text
every
me.
moment.
Be obsessed with me.
Yeah, be obsessed. What number date does no kiss mean you're doomed? 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Oh my God. Maybe 2. Like, you don't want to get into the.
Yeah, I
friend
agree.
zone.
No, I agree.
know.
I agree. You should be kissing after the second date. Not on, but like after at least.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Not like at their apartment necessarily, but like just, walking home, whatever.
Yeah.
If people think that you're something like bitchy or smart or whatever, does it make you want to lean into what they think or rebel against it?
Oh, I like rebel.
Me too. Like if someone thinks I'm a bitch, I'm like, I'll show you fucking bitch. Like I am going to be so bitchy,
I'm like,
Because I don't agree with it unless it's like something nice. If it's something nice, like if someone's like, oh, I think she's like so kind to animals, like I'll be extra kind to your animal. You know what I mean?
no, so you're leaning in. You're not rebelling.
I'll lean
You're
in
going,
if it's positive.
You lean, okay.
No. Yeah, I'll lean in both ways.
You're gonna lean in both ways.
I'll lean in both ways.
I think I'm like gonna rebel. Like, oh, you think that's what I'm gonna do? Then I'm gonna do. Unless I guess unless it is a good thing, then I'm not gonna be a bitch.
Right.
But if you, my parents always said, kill him with kindness. You just
kill him with kindness.
Nice.
I
And
agree.
So you can't say anything bad about me. Why are you talking shit about me? Now like you look bad.
But like sometimes it gets in your head. Like if like everyone's like Mal's such a bitch, then like you're walking around like, am I a bitch?
Well, yeah. Now I have work to do.
And now am I gonna be a bitch because like you think I'm a bitch? It's like confirmation bias, or I don't even know if that's how it's used. This was so much fun. Can you leave us with a quote or piece of advice?
Oh my God.
Something that has helped you throughout the years, or maybe something that you say on your podcast a lot.
I think something that has just helped me in my own life is to follow my own intuition, and that sounds so simple, but if your gut is telling you something, you got to go explore it.
Yeah.
You can't ignore it. The more you shut it off, it's not going to go away. It's just going to stay there. And the more I've learned to follow that, the more my world has opened up in a positive way, and I feel more in alignment and more where I'm supposed to be.
Honestly, I don't know why, but that reminded me of Frozen. Did you ever see Frozen?
No.
Okay.
I mean, not forever. I
Yeah.
have seen Frozen, but like not in a long time.
Yeah.
But what
because
about
a lot of people think that Anna is a lesbian character.
Oh my God, iconic. Okay. I'm going to go watch
revisit.
it with that lens.
Yeah, revisit.
Wow, I love it.
Love it. Where can everyone find you, follow you, listen to the podcast, do the voting, get involved?
Yes. You can find me at Mal Glowenke. You can find the podcast at Made It Out Podcast. Yeah, please go watch Made It Out to the Polls. Watch our podcast. And thank you for having me.
Cool. This was so fun. Thank you.
Thanks.